What's up, guys? B motherfucking C amplified coming at you on this Thursday, last day of Feb. So the end of winter, something to get excited about. Because we know WrestleMania season is not getting you excited. There's only 4 announced matches. All of the teased matches make no sense. There's not even one Hall of Famer announced to be inducted. That's literally 5 weeks from tomorrow. So I guess the way they're going to promote the Hall of Fame is just show up. People will be there. People will get into Barry Horowitz, the Brooklyn Brawler, Aldo Montoya, Duke the Dumpster Drosy will finally take his place in the Hall of Fame. But at least the end of winter is coming up, man. We'll be back at the beach. By the way, speaking of beach, I saw this wild thing recently. The Bash at the Beach, 2000, I believe. It was one of those Vice shows like Dark Side of the Ring. It was Bash at the Beach. Man, you knew there was so much turmoil in the booking between Eric Bischoff, Hulk Hogan, Jeff Jarrett, and Vince Russo. But man, when you see that doc with Bischoff and Russo, somebody's lying, like big time. That Bash at the Beach, man, that's worth a watch. That's a pretty good doc. And man, does that open up the business big time. Anyway, this upload, let's get to these topics. We're going to cover, this is hard to cover, but it has to be talked about. I've been telling you guys this for months and even years. Monday Night Raw, it's hurting big time. And it doesn't matter if it's VKM or HHH. Monday Night Raw is too formulaic. It's too redundant. It lacks passion. It lacks amplification. It puts people to sleep. And the rating this week, 5 weeks before WrestleMania, it's sad. It's nothing that it's not like a pat on the back, like everything I say about this show, and then the rating comes out to back up all of my claims and all of my words. It's not even a pat on the back. It's sad. It's depressing to see these numbers. We'll talk Monday Night Raw. We'll also talk NXT. That show, it's a stone's throw away from being removed from the air. Because what they're pulling now, we're right back to square one. You guys remember when they inserted all of those main roster talents to NXT for like a few months, and they surged through they topped 800,000 plus. I think they were going toward 900 at one point. And we're going to talk about where they are now. And I'm going to tell you the lowest rated segment, by the way, which is supposedly some of their biggest stars on the show. So we'll talk about that as well. NXT had an even worse week than Monday Night Raw, if that's possible. And NXT actually had a big re-debut. We'll talk about who that superstar was and how that was botched. And it's not even this dude's fault. He returned to WWE this past Tuesday. And USA Network totally botched it in conjunction with WWE. I'm not letting them off the hook. But unfortunately, that was botched. We'll talk about that as well coming up. I got to give props over to AEW. I didn't get to catch Dynamite this week. I was able to catch a Broadway show with some special people. So I was on Broadway catching a very entertaining show. So I don't know if Dynamite was entertaining or not, but I will say that I caught a clip of Sting. Old school Crow Sting coming down from the rafters. And this set off a lot of controversy because of Owen Hart. I'm going to tell you guys exactly how I feel about what happened with Sting this past Dynamite last night. So that was a big segment to kick off the show. Thankfully, I was able to see that. I'll talk about it. It's controversial. I understand why. I'll give you my thoughts on it. And if we're speaking about controversy, then we got to talk Maxine Dupree. I believe you guys know exactly what I am talking about. If you don't know what we're talking about, I'm just going to save it for that because Rhea Ripley and a lot other, when we discuss it is when we discuss it in this upload. I'm not even going to say more in the teaser. If you don't know, you're gonna know because it's a hot topic in the pro wrestling world. And we're going to see if there's any validity as to why Rhea Ripley is ripping fans, telling them to be better human beings even. Well, that would be a good thing, by the way. We all should strive to be that. But for this instance, we got to talk about it. And a lot of other talent and non-talent chimed in as if this was absolutely just as Lena Vega put it, a horrible situation. She said the word horrible, but was it? BC watched the clip several times. I listened vividly. I put the octane up to 11. We got to talk about it. Something's not adding up. And before we kick it all off, a salute, respect, love to Virgil Michael Jones, obviously to many of us known as Virgil, I don't know, you could call him a bunch of names to Ted DiBiase. He was basically the gopher for DiBiase, right? He was his, basically what a maid would be. He gave him the foot massages. He also went to get him the coffee and the beverages. He cleaned the pool. You guys remember all the segments. Virgil was the servant to Ted DiBiase. You can call him 100 different things. But Ted DiBiase, the $1 million man, treated Virgil like absolute dog crap. Every single show, every segment, every match. But he was always attached to Ted DiBiase. Most of us raised as kids as knowing him as Virgil. And over the years, he's had a rough go at it. Some people transition good in the after years, out of their prime. Others kind of struggle a bit. And for Michael Jones, Virgil, he struggled mightily. And it became like a meme, and a lot of people had fun with it. Like Virgil would be at these like bingo hall autograph signings. You know, you go to the local event. The Armory is putting something on, the Legion, the bingo hall, and a lot of these ex-wrestlers will show up and they'll set up like a booth and they'll put up their merch and they'll have some 8x10s, you know, and maybe even a banner, right? Come meet Virgil, and it's a picture of them in their prime, right? Not what they are necessarily now, in their prime, but you're paying that respect. And if it's your childhood, still a really cool moment. So Virgil would go up to these and, you know, there'd be these pics of like nobody in line, you know, nobody's at the booth and Virgil's just kind of like sitting behind that table. You know, I understand it's for the laugh. I never liked that because there's a sad reality to it all. It's not just Virgil. I mean, you see that a lot with a lot of ex-wrestlers, man. And you're hoping that bingo hall or that Legion or that Armory pulls in 50 people. And out of those 50 or 4 or 5 going to care to get your merch, say hi to you. You're hoping for at least that, right? Maybe you can walk away with 40, 50 bucks. So I never liked, even if it was in the sake of fun, I never liked seeing that because there's a sad reality to the broken side of the business that still to this day has not been rectified. And for years and years, Vinnie Mac does not like the U word. So it remains to be seen if that ever happens in the future. TK, Tony Khan, has said that he wants more benefits. And he wants to treat his talent better and make sure that they're set up long-term, things like that. But even he will not touch the U word. So it remains to be seen if this is just the way the wrestling business will continue to be. But it was hard to watch Virgil, you know, enter that phase. And so many people tried to help him over the years. There was only so much you could do. It was just a downward spiral, it seemed. But it doesn't erase the icon that Virgil was to many of us growing up. And that's right. You say, well, BC, you're throwing that word around a little loosely. No, growing up, if you were a kid around that time, Virgil was a staple of WWE. I mean, him and Ted DiBiase, I can't explain to you how big their characters were. I can't even relay that possibly in 2024 into words on a podcast. And it didn't matter the age, right? Back then, in the 90s, it didn't matter the age, right? Grown adults had their jaws dropped when The Undertaker came out. They just did. Grown adults were going wild when Hulk Hogan came down the aisle. Grown adults were shocked when Jake Roberts was biting the Macho Man with a cobra snake. So it didn't matter the age, right? But if you were a kid growing up, man, these wrestlers were larger than life. At least Ted DiBiase, man. But even Virgil had a presence. He would say no words while Ted DiBiase blasted the microphone. He would say no words, just look like a badass until Ted DiBiase told him to do something. And what's absolutely mind-boggling is that he could sit there in those Ted DiBiase promos, do nothing, and captivate you, while today's wrestlers, so many of them, can cut a 10-minute promo. You've heard nothing of substance. It was absolutely a weak AF promo. Not mid, weak. And you'd rather have Virgil saying nothing for 3 minutes. That would captivate you more than many wrestlers today cutting a 10-minute promo. The art of the promo is nearly finished. It's non-existent. Because it's about the presence first and foremost. We say that about Warrior and Savage, right? Everybody says, man, most of their promos, you never understood what they were saying, but you were captivated. You were captivated. Presence first in those promos, man. Make the character jump off the screen. No. I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not making Virgil or putting him in the same league as the Warriors and the Hogans, or saying he was evenly matched up star power-wise with Ted DiBiase. But to say that the second the Virgil action figure didn't come out when we were kids, that we weren't running to it because that was one of the most badass action figures. He just looked stocky, badass. You just had to get Virgil. I'll always remember how that damn action figure looked. Virgil was so iconic. One of the most iconic memories I have as a kid was WrestleMania 1991. Ted DiBiase and Virgil in a tag team match with Dusty Rhodes and his son Dustin Rhodes. It was a tag team match, and in that match, Ted DiBiase, he was irate that they lost that. He was irate that Virgil. I remember at the end of that match, he told Virgil to pick up his $1 million championship, and Virgil got on one knee, and he was contemplating how much longer can I take this from Ted DiBiase? How much longer am I willing to take this from Ted DiBiase? And Roddy Piper is screaming on the headset because he was on commentary. Don't do it, Virgil. Stand up for yourself. Stand up. Now's the time, Virgil. Man, you were feeling this segment. And Virgil picked up that belt anyway. And Ted DiBiase is laughing. Everybody's got a price for the $1 million man. And he turns around and Virgil decks him with the championship. And from there, it was Roddy Piper and Virgil. Piper was going to take Virgil under his wing to get that ultimate revenge on Ted DiBiase. Man, those are the memories it was done so beautifully with the right people. And when that happens, it's magic. So anyway, I wanted to take a few minutes, guys, to say some very kind words about Michael Jones Virgil because it's necessary. We have to honor these dudes. We have to honor them while they're still here, first of all. But on top of that, especially when they're gone, make sure that they are never forgotten. I will always heap praise and speak so highly of Michael Jones, Virgil. And I thank you, Virgil, for all that you have given us over the years. And I just hope that you know there were so many of us that tried to give it right back. To the family, to the friends of Michael Jones, Virgil, strength, power, amplification, love, respect, all over your way. We're thinking about you. Virgil, thank you. 61 years young, but immortal for sure. Going on to some of the things that might seem so irrelevant compared to that for sure, but we do have to discuss. I want to give a shout out over to AEW, first of all, Tony Khan, for allowing the Sting segment from last night. It's a highly controversial segment. Sting came down from the rafters to take out the Young Bucks, who had already taken out Darby Allin and even Nature Boy Ric Flair, who looked like he was going to take the side of the Bucks, but ended up throwing some bows over the Bucks, but the numbers game added up. So Sting comes down from the rafters, completely safe. By the way, if you go back, if you check out the segment, camera pans back to the Bucks once he lands on the floor. Most likely he was at least a double, if not triple, laced up in that harness. So there was probably a lock. I would like to see maybe there's a video footage or something, but I'm sure that was done ultra safely for Sting. And he touched bottom. They made sure he was out of the harness perfectly, and then he went about his business cracking people with that bat. The controversy stems obviously from Owen Hart. I get it. And we don't even need to rehash that unfortunate tragedy. Not long after that, right? Because after that happened, Sting showed up to the arena of WCW Nitro. His rigging team was ready to go over the rehearsal, and Sting's like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "What?" And he's like, "Owen died." This was a true interview that Sting gave not long after. He's like, "Owen died. We're not doing this." And for months, they didn't do it. It wasn't until Bischoff and WCW asked him months later, after the Owen Hart incident, "Can we do this again? Can we start this again?" Sting actually called Bret Hart, and he wanted their approval, Bret and the family. That was the only way Sting was going to go back to descending from the rafters with that rigging device and harnessed up. That was the only way Bret Hart and the family was going to have to give him the approval. About a week went by, Semod. Bret calls back Sting and says, "We talked about it. Go for it. We want you to do it." And Sting and WCW started to do it again. So this is not the first time it's happened since the Owen Hart thing, first of all. That's what I hope people understand. Number two, Sting asked the family straight up before anything was done. He said, "Not without family approval, because if it brings back anything, just thoughts about anything to do with the Owen Hart thing, I get it. I don't want to do it. If it's off-putting to you at all, or your family, I get it, not doing it." Bret talked about it for days, got back, "You're good to go, greenlit, no problem with it." Two different scenarios. That was a tragic accident. That should not be banned from pro wrestling for the rest of eternity. And we never would have gotten the Shawn Michaels zipline thing, or all the cool Sting moments. And so many other segments that involved something like that, a zip line or a harness situation. So Sting, on his final Dynamite appearance, decided, dude, one last time, let's bring back my old character. You know, it's not about changing anybody's mind. If you truly think it's just it's ill-conceived, even the notion. If you believe that it's just not the right thing to do, that's your prerogative. Much respect to you. I hear you. I hear where you're coming from. I just hope you understand as well that so many things were put in place to make sure that this was acceptable, including the family of Owen. But these were two different characters, the Blue Blazer and Sting, two different companies, two different entities. And for years, they took that whole stunt off the books for one tragic accident. I mean, that's huge. That's like a plane going down and no more plane rides for a decade, 20 years plus. No more air flying. Train, automobile, buses. There was a plane crash. We can't have another air flight. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? Taking that away for decades, that's one thing. But for all time, I mean, is there an endpoint? Can you never again do a harness spot? Can you never again do a descending spot? Is that just totally off the books? Because on one night, there was a mega failure? I don't know if that's the right thing. The pro wrestling industry is built on stunts. It has been for decades and decades. Stunts will always be a part of it. It doesn't matter if it's limousines blowing up or wrestlers being chased down by a monster truck. People coming down on a zip line or descending from the rafters. Rings absolutely breaking as wrestlers like Big Show and Mark Henry come catapulting onto it and the ring implodes. The pyrotechnic displays blowing up on wrestlers, flaming tables, flying off of cages. There's always going to be stunt aspects, things that need to be rehearsed, things that absolutely could go wrong, but you're hoping for the best in the sake of the show. So while this remains controversial, my thoughts, it was so epic to see, and it was one last time. I doubt very much you're going to see that going forward with another character in AEW anytime soon. No harm, no foul. He was most likely triple suited up safely. They most likely went out of their way more than ever before, which is probably why you had the camera panned on the Bucks once he landed. You got to trust people, man. I know sometimes an accident happens and you never want to trust it again. I get it, but you got to believe that it's not all doom and gloom. And that maybe AEW, the rigging team, and Sting, they found a way to safely get Sting to the ground for the sake of Sting's last show before his last match. I loved it. Brought me back to the WWE, WCW, Raw, Nitro War, Monday Night War. Brought me right back, and you guys know, it's just the best time in wrestling. And while we'll never get that era back, I get it. There's still some of those aspects that need to be there today for wrestling to succeed. And I think we're starting to see that with the ratings so low and just the interest in times like WrestleMania season not really being interesting at all this year. So we need to bring back some of those aspects. And it's the little ones, like I've been saying, just the intro to shows like Monday Night Raw. The intro. Have some heavy music that is rocking that arena. So even if they want to fall asleep, they're out of their seats. What? We're out of yeah. Some rocking music, right? Pyrotechnics that seems like explosions. And a hot start to the show. Instead of just showing the outside of the arena and going, welcome everyone to Monday Night Raw. No pyro. And then we go to the ring. Here comes Judgment Day or Tozawa. Who knows? It's not how you start shows, man. Some of those aspects from the Attitude Era have to be here. It was so good to see. One last time, Sting coming down from those rafters. If you don't feel the same way, I hear you, respect you, your prerogative. I see zero issue with this at all. And to Sting, man, it seems like he's on top of his game today. It's wild to think that in a week, his career is over when he's doing some of his best work in a long time. Wild. I talked about Monday Night Raw just about a minute ago, right? I used that as an example of, how we have to bring life back to these shows just from the intros alone from these shows. Monday Night Raw this week, guys. Listen to this rating. Monday Night Raw scored I can't even say scored. They unfortunately received a 1.73 rating. If you're wondering, this is down 150,000 viewers from just last week. And you're thinking, well, BC, that's not good because that was the post-elimination change. That was the post-premium live event, PPV, Monday Night Raw. The post-show, like a pre-show, always brings in a good rating. Not only that, guys, I know that's what you're thinking, right? This was a post-pay-per-view PLE show. But it's not just that. We're getting closer to WrestleMania. Headed toward now 5 weeks from this Saturday, correct? What is it? The 2nd of March is Saturday. 9th, 16, 23, 30, and then WrestleMania. 5 weeks from this Saturday. So we're getting closer to WrestleMania, and they're losing droves of fans. This isn't like 10, 20,000 fans. I mean, I know that's a lot, but okay. They got swayed by something. Right, Monday Night Raw was against nothing. In the business, they call this a dry night. There was no big events or shows that would derail Raw. This was easy peasy, as Oscar would say. Easy peasy. You score the 1-8 last week going into the chamber. You pop that 1-9.5, and we can start to talk about 2 mil, maybe, right? With a show that's been drastically horrible. I'll use Zelina Vega's words for Maxine Dupree in that situation, which we'll get to. But horrible, right? Under Paul Levesque McMahon, they've been producing their worst ratings of all time in show history. Paul Levesque McMahon, during Monday Night Football, was a 1.4 to a 1.6 average. 1.4 was the low end, hit most weeks. 1.6 was their high during football. Do you guys understand we are 30,000 viewers away from WWE Raw being right back at their football average? There's just one issue. There's no more Monday Night Football. If only there was somebody in the community that was telling you all of these issues and waving that red flag for the longest of time. Oh, wait, that's us. We were doing that. 1.73 lost 150,000 viewers up against nothing as we get closer to Mania, and we came out of a PLE. 30,000 viewers away from 1.6s in a WrestleMania season. And there's people that are going to go cord cutting. They're watching highlights afterwards, BC. It's not the same like it used. That's the problem. It was 1.8 plus with some competition last week. No competition. You lost 150,000 viewers. They want to watch highlights. Why? Why would they not want to watch live? There's nothing else on. You're not doing it. It's the middle of winter. What are you doing? Or is the show just that bad? It's not worth it. I can't tell you guys how many over the weeks, the months, the years I've had this channel, how many people say, BC, I can no longer watch Raw. I'm going to listen to your reviews, though. You tell me if anything was good, maybe I'll go back and check it out. If it was horrible, I saved myself the time. Now more than ever, people are telling BC that, BC, I'm done watching Raw. I just can't do it anymore. You know what's wild? They're being honest. That's what my amplified unit does anyway. It's full honesty. 150,000 people just this week alone said, no, we're done. Right? I'm seeing it with my audience, which is a microcosm of the grander scheme. The grander scale of it all. This tells you it ain't just my audience. It's not just this microcosm. It has branched. More and more people are fed up with these Monday Night Raws. Jeff Jarrett says it. I forgot who told him the phrase, but I've been saying it for the longest of time, and it was on that Bash at the Beach documentary, Vice's, maybe it was like a Dark Side of the Ring. But Jeff Jarrett says it was the old adage in pro wrestling that still remains true today. When you confuse them, you lose them. Confuse them, you lose them. What have I said for years on this channel? When an audience is truly confused, they're gone. They ain't coming back. Paul Levesque McMahon's booking confuses. Vince McMahon's was bad for 10 years. I'm the first one to say that. VKM's was bad. But at times where it needed to, I want to say peak, but it kind of did last year with Bloodline and Sami Zayn. When everything needs to come together, even Vince is like, all right, let's do it. Right? And it starts to feel like mania. With Levesque McMahon, you're getting faces versus faces, heels versus heels, little spurt booking where you get people like Xia Li that look like they're going to be booked really strong and they get a couple wins and then all of a sudden they get 3 straight L's and they're at catering. You don't know what happened to them. Or people like Alba Fire and Isla Dawn they get catapulted into a title match and they lose it and they're never seen again. Bronson Reed wins a couple matches. You're like, oh, they're gonna, and then he loses 4 in a row, and then he's sitting catering for a month. And NXT even worse, not in the viewership that was lost from last week to this week, which was a 7% drop in their own right, but just the number being so damn low that when they switch over to CW, if they go under 500,000, you gotta believe that's a big issue. NXT pulled in 570,000 viewers this week, 570K. That is down another 46K from just last week. 46,000. Again, that's a 7% drop. It's the lowest audience since July 4th of last year. Straight up holiday show, by the way. Lowest audience since July 4th. If you're wondering, the 18 to 49 demo, 0.16, it was the lowest rating since August of last year. The lowest rating came in during a contract signing between Dragunov and Carmelo. I mean, just doing these matches over and over, I don't know if they honestly think like that's going to bring in an audience. Dragunov and Mello is just not the answer. Just not. I feel they're keeping some of these dudes down there too long. You're confusing your audience. Carmelo was just over on the main roster. Now he's still mingling around down there. He's got the Trick Williams situation he still has to account for. And then they had a botched return of Ty Dillinger. Ty Dillinger, who I like. Sean Spears. The Perfect 10. Remember Sean Spears? The chairman. Who some say he lifted that gimmick. That's another story. But Sean Spears, I was good to see him. I'm like, dude, that fits, right? It fit. And the crowd's like, holy shit. And USA Network has WWE absolutely muted out. They bleep it all out. So you're not even here. I mean, they do the debut of Spears Dillinger, and the crowd is into it, but they're muting the entire crowd out nonstop, in and out, in and out. So then when Vic Joseph is like, that's Sean Spears. It was cut up, guys. You couldn't even hear the announcement of who it was. I hope that makes sense because it was going in and out with the beeps. So most of Joseph telling you who has arrived, you couldn't even hear it. And then to make it worse, WWE cut immediately to the backstage. They cut immediately backstage, like in the parking lot, for two dudes that were going to meet later in the night. And I'm like, whoa, you didn't let that breathe? It was such a botch from USA and WWE, man, and the NXT production staff. That was not how you do that. It could have and should have been so much more special. 570K for NXT. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's not working. That's obvious. And my biggest issue with NXT is what it's been for a while now. It's not believable. Their lines are so overly scripted. We always say like pro wrestling is like the ultimate dude soap opera. It can't actually be a soap opera. And the way they do these camera angles in these segments and these promos backstage and this back and forth monologue, line by line, it's like soap opera. It's like, what are we doing, man? You're never going to create a star or have them find themselves and really turn the volume up if they're this produced. It is, and it's not even, you can't even say that it's working because it has no identity, and that's because of Levesque McMahon and everybody involved with NXT over the last several years that claim it's developmental, but also a third brand, but it's basically where we send everybody to just be better. But that's not true, right? Because you have people like Jade Cargill that have yet to really make an impact in WWE. We don't know what they're doing with Jade. They're taking their time with Jade, right? She's down at the Performance Center, not on NXT, but at the Performance Center. They're really working out the kinks, right? And really fine-tuning Jade Cargill. But then you see somebody like Maxine Dupree. She's catapulted to the main roster, I guess what? Based on looks, maybe, because she was a valet first, right? In the model agency, of all things. She was a model running the agency. And then, of course, that imploded. So they throw her with Alpha Academy. And she's still kind of like a valet. And then they're like, no, maybe we want you to wrestle some more now. We want you to wrestle now. But you never really You never took the time with her like you are with so many others. But this isn't the first time that's happened, right? There's been people that have leapfrogged so many people. Let's stick with the females. I remember Lacey Evans. She wasn't even really known in NXT. She goes over everybody and right to the main roster. And then you wonder why there was never a connection with the crowd. It happens all the time where they just pick and choose. These people are going to come up faster. Austin Theory. When you think NXT, whether black and gold or any version of it afterwards, Austin Theory was never a prevalent part of NXT. Never. He was there for a cup of 2-3 cups of coffee. That was it. And then he was just skyrocketed to the main roster, right? Vinnie Mac wanted him up there. I get it. But you wonder why there's still to this day no connection, why they had to pipe in boos. Not even beating John Cena on the grandest stage could save Austin Theory. Dude didn't work out any kinks in NXT. And then you have ones that stay too long in NXT to the point where they're broken, man. Braun Breaker's one of them. Good luck trying to get him good booking now on the main roster. Dragunov seems to be the latest recipient of being down there for too damn long. Carmelo for sure. Maxine Dupree, right? That's all a lead-in to this story and how I want to end this upload. Maxine Dupree. One of those cases where she shows up to the main roster and is chucked into a pro wrestling ring, right? And now we have this scenario. This is not the first time this is played out. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, lately, fans have been really calling out the botches in Maxine and just the pacing being off and throwing off her opponents. Fans are really, their patience is wearing thin with Maxine. Now, this is one of those cases for BC. This was not a big deal because I think being with Alpha Academy was hiding it, right? They're kind of a goofy clique together with Tozawa and Otis. Chad Gable's hilarious, obviously, and then you add in Maxine, and I always thought that the character was supposed to be goofy anyway, so we're supposed to perceive her as not that great of a wrestler. Not now, anyway. So I thought WWE perfectly placed her in the Alpha Academy, and because of that, BC was... I wasn't watching Maxine Dupree and really critiquing it that hard. But other fans, no, they were like, what is this? What is happening? So fans were booing and fans were just not happy and they were showing that displeasure. This is not the first time this has happened, right? Where a wrestler's in the ring that probably shouldn't be. And the fans are saying, dude, this ain't it. Entertaining us is one thing. Trying to get better at whatever you do is one thing. This just isn't working. And there's fans that are like that today again for Maxine. They have every right to do that, as long as you're not over the top, obnoxiously rude, and you're ruining it for everybody else, by the way. Then you should get Das Boot. I don't care how much money you spent on a ticket. But the incident in question, there's a clip that Maxine, it was at a house show over the weekend, or this past week, so at some point this week. She's at a house show. She's going up the ramp, and fans you can hear are booing her. There's one fan, guys. There's one fan that you can hear in the audio yelling, "You suck! You suck, Maxine! Don't come back! You suck!" That was it. That's a quote. You can turn the volume all the way up. You can listen to it 1,010 times plus. That was it. There was boos, and one dude was yelling, "You suck! You suck, Maxine! Don't come back! You suck!" Dude lives in the town. He's telling you not to come back. Is that the worst thing that a pro wrestler can hear? You suck. Don't come back. And a lot of these wrestlers, they flipped out when they got wind of this. Rhea Ripley responded this. Rhea Ripley took to the social doohickey machine. And Rhea Ripley said, "I really wish that some of you got booed and ridiculed in the public eye while being new at your job. Learning and getting better is all a part of being human. Be better humans." Rhea Ripley telling people to be a better human being. Be better as humans is her quote. Again, Rhea Ripley saying, "I really wish that some of you got booed and ridiculed in the public eye while being new at your job. Learning and getting better is all a part of being human. Be better humans." I'll go back to what Rhea Ripley said, but that wasn't really it either. Then you had, on top of that, somebody chimed in, a Stephanie Hypes? I don't know who this female, Stephanie Hypes. If you're booing a wrestler on the other side of the fence for trying to do some hard shit you've never done before, you can fuck all the way off. Classy, Stephanie Heinies. You can fuck all the way off if you're booing somebody as a fan for trying to do something that you can't do. To Stephanie Hypes. Yeah. I believe Zelina Vega said something about it too. Zelina Vega says, or do I have Zelina? Zelina like chimed in too, or Zelina was not. I don't think I have Zelina's, but Zelina was like against it. Natalia spoke up too. By the way, there was Rhea also put this, I think it was like from a fan. There's a difference between critique and verbal abuse. Booing and shouting "you suck" never come back at a rookie who is earnestly trying to improve at their craft is the latter. There's nothing critical or constructive about that message. Insane how many have failed to grasp this. Constructive criticism is not the fans' responsibility. They're going to a show to cheer, boo, and say things like "you suck." Don't come back to Mississippi, or don't come back to San Diego, or don't come back to Montana. Don't come back to Tallahassee. What is so wrong with it? They're booing. They're these wrestlers and some of these fans are saying that's not constructive criticism. No. Now, you could say that about journalists, reporters, or podcasters, right? I mean, even we're trying to have fun with the material, so there's going to be some jokes made, obviously. We're going to have some fun. But you can say that about a sector. But the fans that are showing up, they can't even, in 2024, you can't even say, "you suck, don't come back, boo." You can't even do that because it's not constructive criticism. You can only show up if you're going to boo, if you're going to say anything. It has to be constructive criticism. What a boring time to be a pro wrestling fan. You got to show up and you got to do what WWE wants you to do, right? Just sit there and watch all the redundant matches and clap and yell, "This is awesome," right? And then wait a little bit and then go, holy shit, right? You got to do all that. And then afterwards, go on your social doohickey machines and rate the matches. Maybe 6, maybe 7 imaginary stars, right? And then repeat the process. Do not do anything more than just boo. Don't you even say "you suck." Don't you even say "don't come back." Whoa. That's horrible. I think that's what Zelina Vega's message said. I wish I had that up. But she was like, "This is absolutely horrible." And I'm like, what is horrible? They made a song back in the day for Kurt Angle. They used to say Kurt Angle sucked. They would just chant it much worse. You know what Kurt Angle did? He laughed and he goes, "Dude, let's do something." They made a song. It was one of his best theme music ever. "You suck. You suck. You suck." They made a song out of it, made bank. Kurt Angle loves it to this day. He was at the Hall of Fame and they were doing it with the Milk Bash. Rocky it used to be "Die Rocky Die" was a chant. They made that into a whole promo where Dwayne turned into, Rocky Maivia turned into The Rock. They used it, right? It's wrestling fans. And in 2024, "you suck, don't come back." Now, it's a lot of from what I'm seeing anyway, with all the reports, it was all the ladies that kind of jumped on this. I'm not seeing any of the dudes really like have a problem with this. It's all, from what I'm reading, it's like a lot of the feet, like Natalia chimed in, Zelina, probably many others, Rhea Ripley again, telling people to be better human beings. This is disgusting. And maybe it was Zelina, so I don't want to put words. Somebody I read like, it's from, oh man, I wish I had, but it was basically along the lines of like, it's just from the people that haven't touched grass. And while some of that may be true, right? Every sector, every fan base, every entity is going to have those type of fans that they haven't gotten any, if in a long time, if ever, they haven't got any, right? You talk about touch grass, they haven't seen grass. I get that. But now we're just hurling back insults, right? I mean, like the Stephanie Heine's girl, right? You can fuck all the way off if you're going to shout, "You suck," at pro wrestlers. You can't say "you suck." You can fuck all the way off. Or, these are from fans that haven't touched grass or whatever. So you can't boo Maxine, or else you haven't touched grass. It's a lot of visceral right back, right? Rhea Ripley, be better human beings. It's wild because the same thing that they're claiming, that these people are so disrespectful and rude and just, it's disgusting behavior, they come back even worse. And it's a microcosm of what's happening in the world, like even politically, right? Where one side will say they're doing X, Y, and Z and it's despicable. And their defense to it is even more despicable. Like, the wild part in all this is nobody was screaming profanity at Maxine or anything. "You suck, don't come back, boo Maxine." Sounded like all in good fun. Maybe they're critiquing her in-ring work. Maybe it was exceptionally bad on that night. I don't know. But it's their right to do it. They're not being overly... That's nothing that I would, if I'm security, going, you gotta go. You can't say don't come back to your town. You can't say you suck as a pro wrestling fan for a pro wrestler just because she's supposed to be a face. So there's no profanity or anything, and you have this Stephanie girl responding with "you can fuck all the way off," and Rhea saying "be a better human being," because basically you're filth is what she's saying, and hurling insults like, "Oh, you just haven't touched grass, that's why you said she sucks." It's always these people that scream from the mountaintop how despicable somebody else is, when unfortunately they're even worse. At least that's how they come across, because two wrongs don't make a right. Rhea Ripley says, I really would like to get the exact quote back up. Hold on one second. Rhea Ripley says, and I quote, "I really wish that some of you got booed and ridiculed in the public eye while being new at your job. Learning and getting better is all a part of being human." She wishes you got ridiculed and booed at your job if you were new. How many jobs are like you're a pro wrestler trying to generate a reaction? But fans show up, bare minimum. The basic is to cheer and boo, right? And then you're going to get the "you sucks." And if they tell you not to come back to their town, they're having fun. They're not actually going to sit there with a badge and a bat and any other freaking entity in their left hand waiting at the town line. So when the tour bus comes in, they're going to stop you. "No, is Maxine on here? She can't come into my town." They're not going to do that. Actually, they're just having fun. "Boo, you suck. Get out of it. Don't come back." It's fun. To them anyway, right? So to say, Rhea Ripley, that you wish that everybody got ridiculed and booed at their job, you're acting like Maxine is a barista at Starbucks. Of course, if we go into Starbucks and we get a hazelnut latte, it's in season, what's now? Pistachio is in season, right? Pistachio latte. Well, if the latte doesn't come out like it tastes like vanilla, or maybe it's not even a latte at all, right? You're going to return the drink. It doesn't matter if they're new. They could have a bright big old name tag, right? "Stacy and I'm new." Well, new Stacy. Hope it works out well for you. But you made my drink wrong and it's $6.50, so you might want to remake it for me. Thanks, I'll be right over here, right? You can be respectful, not even look at Stacy, right? Added pressure on her shoulders. I get it. Look at the wall, whistle around the room a little bit, but wait for Stacy to make the right drink. You're acting like Maxine is Stacy, the newbie at Starbucks. We would not sit there if Stacy got the drink wrong. We wouldn't sit there and start booing her, right? I wouldn't get a rally going with everybody else in the Starbucks. Everybody, come on, ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Asshole, asshole, you suck, you suck, you suck. Fire her. Fire her. Right? Getting all these chants. We wouldn't do that if they make the coffee. If a new person at Starbucks makes the coffee wrong, we're not going to sit there and start chanting and booing and telling her she sucks. We're going to ask, though. We are going to ask that she remakes the drink because she got it wrong. It wasn't good. It was a bad performance by that barista. Or at least I, as the customer, get the correct coffee that I ordered. That's how this works. Now, Rhea Ripley, you decided to be a professional wrestler. So when you go out of that curtain, right? When you come from that curtain, right? You are now at the position of being cheered, which you loved in Australia. There was no despicable human beings then. Or you can get booed. You can have people claiming and yelling how awesome you are, right? Mommy, mommy. You were loving that on Raw. And then you're going to get, you suck. You're going to get people yelling, please come back more. We don't get to see you enough. You're going to have people claiming, don't come back, please. We don't need to see you. But if that's what's upsetting you, boos and you suck and don't come back. If that is what has gotten everybody in a frenzy, it's a sad time to be a pro wrestling fan. I'm the first to say, be a better human being when it's just, no question. I'm the first to say it, that if you have a rude fan in any sport, Broadway show, I was just on Broadway recently again, if it's a Broadway show, if it's a sporting event, anything that has an audience, if there's one disrespectful some bitch to another level, absolutely removed, doesn't get his money back. Get out. You're obnoxious to another level. I'll be the first to say and advocate for that. And for the ladies, even though it's 2024 and you don't want to put one entity over the other, right? I will say that I'll even give even more room for the ladies. More respect, because what they're doing is much harder. Right? They're really trying to establish themselves, and the companies are not doing them any favors with their booking. So I absolutely agree with all of it. But with this incident, there was nothing there. She's being booed. Okay, I know that sucks because she's a face, and as Rhea and so many have said, she's such a sweetheart backstage. I get it. Ashley Flair, Charlotte Flair, is a sweetheart to many backstage. Like an emotional, she's always crying and really up in her feels. That's Ashley. But Charlotte Flair doesn't connect with a lot of fans. Is that really disrespect, or is that fans going, there's no connection? Please change that. We want to cheer for Charlie. We want to see her out there. That's just one example. But to take a crowd where so many individuals were booing loudly a lot, and one dude on the clip, one dude was yelling, you suck, Maxine, don't come back. If pro wrestlers cannot take that, that's sad. It's a sad time to be a part of pro wrestling. Because you should want chants like that. Face or not, you're getting a reaction, man. You're getting people talking. You suck, don't come back. That's it. That's what we can no longer say, or else you're a despicable human being? And it brings you back to NXT. Then just take her off, like we said about Nia Jax for the longest time. Take her off the road, bring her down to Florida, Orlando Performance Center, work on her if you want her to continue to wrestle. If this is strictly just based on skill, and that's why they're booing, they're paying their money. And maybe they just don't want to see, again, I don't even have a problem with Maxine. I think she works well with Alpha Academy. So I'm not even seeing how this all exploded anyway. But it's where fans are at. I still don't understand it's Cody's time, or Cody needs to finish the story. As a Cody supporter, I still don't understand how we did not get The Rock versus Roman, the dream match this year. Because a lot of fans literally just had a meltdown. I don't understand it, but it's their right to do it. It's not that heinous when you come down to it. Not liking Maxine's performance is their prerogative. They paid the money to go there. They paid the money so that Maxine can do this. So now to get together and say that this is obnoxious, it's horrible, this should never happen, we can fuck off, it's unacceptable behavior. What, booing and saying you suck? They paid their money. They believe the performance was not up to par. If you went to Broadway like BC just did recently, and the performance was not up to par, you have to let that be known. Now, it's different situations for every scenario, right? For instance, Broadway, you wouldn't just stand up and start going, "You suck! This was horrible!" No, in Broadway, you sit down, right? You don't give the standing O. Right? Standing O is for like the best of performances. A lot of people think you go to Broadway and you stand up at the very end for the bows. That's not always the case. On Broadway, you stand up for the very best of shows. For a good show, nice applause, very nice. Give everybody a pop for the bow. And when it's not a good performance, you'll see even people getting up and leaving before the bows. It's what you do. It's Broadway. It's New York City. For pro wrestling, you can boo and say things like, "You suck, don't come back, we don't want you." You can say that. It's pro wrestling. That's the least of that's all in the field of fair play. And for like Starbucks, right? You don't sit there and say, "You suck," or you don't turn your backs on them and walk out. You would bring your coffee back and say, "This was not made correctly." But you would send it back. You would have to volley back that coffee. Fans can volley back that performance. They can do it. I'm all for putting just obnoxious people for the sake of obnoxiousness, taking them out of the building, or saying this ain't right. This wasn't it. There was nothing in this clip you're just making it not okay for wrestling fans to have any fun when they show up to these arenas. Maxine is not just little Stacy on her first day at Starbucks. Maxine is a pro wrestler in the World Wrestling Entertainment. She's a big girl. If she can't take "You suck, don't come back," you got to start asking if this is the business for Rhea Ripley, Maxine, or anybody. You got to start asking, can they handle this pro wrestling thing? Because those are just some fans being fans. Some might be a little more obnoxious than others, no question. I can't believe this is what drew up all of this ire and rage in Rhea Ripley and so many others. They don't even want you booing them anymore. You just got to show up after you paid hundreds of dollars for these seats these days, and you just got to watch them. And if they absolutely are horrible, even if they're botching the whole way through it doesn't matter. Sit there and cheer, or at least be respectful, because they're trying to get better. So if you go to Starbucks next time and you see that person who's in training and you order the pistachio latte, but you got a oat milk iced coffee, not even a latte, and it's iced and it's got oat milk, you know what? Just walk. Just take it. Because she's new. You know what I mean? Just accept it, guys. I know you just paid $6-7 for it. Just take it. She's new. Right? Be respectful. They got your money. You just take whatever they give you. Wild. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Top guys, we are out. BC saying check you. Peace.